So this is the first time this channel is doing vlogmas, and we're going to be posting a video every other day starting on December 1st. And today we are going to be doing a video with my lovely mother. If you don't know, this is Miss LaDonna Mills. She is an amazing mama and a fellow book lover like myself. And today we're going to bring you our winter holiday book suggestions. We have 3 categories. First category is books that we recommend that we've personally read. And then the next 2 kind of can go hand in hand. They can be mixed around together. But the second one is books that I want to read this holiday season or this winter season. And then the third one is books that are on my TBR. So maybe not books that we're going to get to this season, but maybe next year, or you see suggestions from other book people and you want to write them down for next year, right? We're going to put a picture of the cover of the book on the screen somewhere so you can see what the cover would look like. First of all, Mom, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody books that you recommend for the winter season?
So the very first one, it happens to be a nonfiction book, which is very unusual for this channel because we mostly focus on fiction.
We like to escape.
Yes, I mean that's the whole purpose for reading, right?
Right.
So the first one is Wintering by Catherine May.
No way! I have that on mine too. Okay, so we didn't really get together and pick books together. I picked mine out and she picked her out. But we have that book in common. So cool. Okay, keep going about that one.
The second one is.
Do you want to say anything about Wintering? Why you recommend it? Just like a little snippet.
It's a very unique book.
Yes.
If you have ideas about what self-help genre is like, you need to set that to the side because this lady is a writer. That was her. She was a professor in English, writing, literature before Wintering.
Yeah.
And she has a unique way of storytelling that makes nonfiction very enjoyable to read.
Right.
You're pulled into her story.
Right.
And along the way, she's giving you helpful tips and advice about dealing with the winter seasons of your life. It is such a unique book. The next one is technically a children's book, but I mean, in the words of C.S. Lewis, a children's book that only appeals to children is not a very good children's book. So this one is The Long Winter by Laura Ingalls Wilder. I read it several times as an adult, and it's amazing when you go back and read a book from your childhood as an adult, all the things that you didn't catch when you were a child,
right,
that you catch, and the deeper meaning of, it was a cool story when I was a kid, but now as a mother who's had struggles, I find myself going down those pathways in that book. Really, we think of December as the gift-giving season, and I think a lot of times we're concerned about what we're going to receive, but also we're so caught up in those special gifts that we're wanting to get for the people that we love that we lose the joy of the gift giving. And there's a book that I read, I think 2 years ago, called 29 Gifts by Cammie Walker. And it's about a lady who was struck down with MS at 35.
Oh, wow.
And she went to a spiritual counselor, and the spiritual counselor finally said one day, "You are too self-centered." And she's saying this to a person that's had their whole life wrecked, And she said she was a little bit insulted by that at first. And then she said, "I want you to do something to get your mind every day off of yourself. And I want you to give a gift to someone every day." She's like, "I'm basically homebound. How's this going to work?" But as she began the journey of trying to find someone for every day to give a gift to for the 29 days, it's also a nonfiction book, but it also draws you in.
I'll add that one to my
It's a very good book, and I remember when I read it, I thought, I want to do this for a December I want to give a gift for 29 days.
That's like a really good book. I kind of want to read that.
And so I love that book, and of course each chapter is a separate story about that day's gift. And so, you could almost read it like a devotional or
an Advent maybe?
Yeah, or you could read it like a daily motivational book. And actually the lady ended up creating a whole movement, about the 29 gifts. And so it's just something that really impacted me. Focus on others and not yourself. So if you're struggling financially during the holidays, it's a great thing because you learn about the gifts that
the
you
different
can
types
give.
Yes.
That's not always monetary.
Yes. So books that I recommend this holiday season or winter season, and you actually had two of the same that Mom did, was Wintering by Catherine May. It's just a great book. You should read it. And then obviously this wouldn't be a holiday winter recommendation if we didn't mention Little Women. Obviously you can pick up that book any season of the year and feel the festivities of it all, but it does start during Christmas, so it's a cool, if you just want to read a Christmas bit, you could just start at the beginning of the book. Anyway.
I want to say too, just to jump in there, I would highly recommend the original movie as well.
Which one?
The one with, any of them are good, but
Any of them are
of course that's one of the few movies that every remake has been
That is the truth.
good.
And it's good for the time that it was made in, but it also stands the test.
Yes. But the original one, I think, because that's the one.
What's the original one?
The one with Elizabeth Taylor and Janet Allison.
Isn't that the one that I grew up watching, and then the 90s one came out, and then the one that came out a couple of years ago.
I watched it with little Becca and baby Rachel, and so that.
We'll put a picture of which one we're talking about.
That's essentially
that's
associated. That's Little Women for me.
Yeah. Okay. Christmas with and Other Stories by Ella Montgomery. If you are a Ella Montgomery fan and a Green Gables fan, this is kind of just a collection of Ella Montgomery's Christmas winter passages.
Writing this one down.
It's a collection of passages about, Anne, she went with the puff sleeves, and other works that aren't Anne of Ella Montgomery's that have to do with the winter and Christmas. It's just a great little book to read, and it's pretty, small. And then also a classic, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I actually listened to this on Audible last year, and it's like 4 hours long, maybe. And I think there was a Jim Carrey version of it, maybe. I don't know who the narrator was, but it was so well done. And it's just a quick listen. Okay, Mom, books that you want to read this winter/holiday season.
I discovered Kristen Hanna this year, and so I become obsessed. And I've noticed myself for the past 3 years, it's like I discover an author and then I'm just obsessed about their writing for the rest of the year.
We have that in common.
And so this year it was Kristen Hanna and James Michener, but really Kristen Hanna for the what I call the candy reads. And so she has one called Comfort and Joy that I believe is a Christmas setting. And also she has one that's called Winter Garden that I thought might be appropriate for the winter time. So I've got those two Christmas or seasonal reads from Kristen Hanna. And then I'm going to finish up, and these are not seasonal, but I'm going to finish up my Miss Marple this month, and I have a Pocket Full of Rye and Nemesis to go. But those books are usually like 5 hours long, so.
I didn't know about the Kristen Hanna. I'll have to get those off here. There's 3 books on your list now that I have to write down on mine. Okay, so books that I want to read this season, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. I've never officially read this book. I don't know if I'm going to read it or listen to it. I'm obviously a huge fan of the Disney movies. But one of the Comfort Book Club with Miranda Mills, that's what they're reading for December. So I thought, what a great time to add that to the list. And then these are kind of estimated ones. The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffman. It's just a classic Christmas book. I don't know if I'll get it to this season, but I want to try to get to it. And then the Christmas Poems by Carol Ann Duffy. Stories for Winter and Nights by The Fire. I think it's just a collection of books, or a collection of stories that have to do with the winter season. And then the Little Book of Hygge, how do you say it? Hygge by Meek Whiting. I know I said his name wrong. And I feel like Mike? Mm-hmm. Mike Whiting? I don't know. Oh, this book was really popular 7 to 10 years ago. And one of my best friend, Janae, she's very into Scandinavian living. She actually has family that lives in, where do they live? Sweden. She has family that lives in Sweden. And so she's very into the Scandinavian lifestyle. And I remember seeing it from her, and then I think you've read this book as well.
It's a book that I read several times in a row.
Really?
That book and Marie Kondo's books came into my life about the same time, and I was all on that journey of slowing down my lifestyle, being more intentional about things, and getting rid of all the clutter. And those Marie Kondo's books and the Book of Hygge. And there's another book that he wrote, I can't remember the title of it right now, but they all go along together. And since then, I've noticed how much the Japanese way of life and the Scandinavian life mirror each other. Because I have people that I follow on YouTube who are Japanese and Scandinavian, and their things that they do is so similar.
Really?
It's just so,
that's really cool.
So unique to me how that is, because two totally different sides of the world, but they have so much in common in their lifestyles.
Right. I was actually, the Little Book of Hygge, I haven't, it's been around, I've seen it, but I've never really officially read a book or studied it. And there's two things that kind of really, and this isn't a seasonal book per se, you could really read it whenever, but I really wanted to read it in the winter season because it's a perfect time to what I understand of it right now is a great time to do it. But I really influenced to actually read a book because of John's ancestry is Finnish. His grandmother came, I think she's Finnish or Swedish, but they're Finnish, Swedish, he's Scottish, and his grandmother came from there when she was a little girl to America. So that kind of has been an influence.
I would say that winter is a perfect time to read that book because Scandinavia, as you may or may not know, that's when they go into their dark period of the year. And their whole way of life is about creating light and darkness, a cozy atmosphere in a very cold place, and about making the best of those hard situations and making them actually an enjoyable time of the year, where in a culture that's already centered around an intentional lifestyle, they even take it up a notch in their simplicity and the simple comforts of a simple lifestyle. It's about staying warm and having light.
Yeah.
So
It's deep.
it is deep.
Okay, Mom, what are your books that are on here to be read? Maybe not this year, maybe this year, maybe you want to switch them around, but yeah.
Okay, I have The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh.
You guys may not know this about me. I'm sure you don't, because you don't really know me real well yet, but I'm a huge C.S. Lewis fan, and not so much for his fiction stuff, but his nonfiction writings. The best book I read about grief, or the one that touched me the most when I went through losing my husband, was his book about a grief observed.
Oh, really?
And it's about him losing his wife.
Oh.
And that book had the most profound impact on me, and it's my favorite book about grief. And I've read his theological writings for years, and when the nerdy intellectual theologian in me needs a hit, I go to C.S. Lewis every time. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That's on my to-be read for next year. Hercule Poirot's Christmas.
Yes, that's a good one.
The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding by Agatha Christie.
Ooh.
Those are both particularly Christmas stories. But I'm of the person that said it was any time of the year is a good time to read Agatha, but especially the winter time. It gets that, if you're wrapped up in a blanket with a hot beverage and you're in your comfy chair, that Agatha Christie is just like the cherry on top of that wonderful moment.
Miranda calls them the Christmas Christies.
Yes.
The Christie Christmas or something like that. I think she calls it the Christmas Christies because it's just cozy to have a
But on
Christie.
anything that she writes really is that cozy feel. So
For
I
sure.
feel like,
Even it's so weird because it is a murder or some sort of it's a murder mystery most of the time.
yes.
But still, it's not too intense to where you don't feel her description. Right?
Yes. It's a cozy murder.
It's a Christmas Christie.
Miranda.
It's a cozy murder.
Yeah, just have to read it and try it for yourself to understand what we're talking about. And then, and then I just added Christmas with Anne by L.M. Montgomery and A Christmas Carol Audible by Charles Dickens.
Yes, we love it. Okay, here are some of the books that are on my TBR for maybe this year, maybe not. A Christmas Cornucopia by Mark Forsoff. I think that's the one. I was watching another YouTuber, she explained it. It's kind of I don't know if this one is the one where he kind of, it's a funny, it's lighthearted, funny, but he goes and tells kind of all those little traditions, you know, what the Advent is, the decorating, all these little Christmas traditions. And
What is it?
It's called A Christmas Cornucopia by Mark, and I don't know if I'm going to say it or spell it right, Forsoff. But he kind of goes around and describes and explains the Christmas traditions that I think more of the English culture does. And she says it's kind of funny in a way, but that's kind of what I want to read. There's a literary Christmas anthology by the British Library. That looks really good for British writers. And then the misread series. Any of the Christmas misread series, No Holly for Miss Quinn was one of them. I think Miranda Mills shared 3 of them, and that one kind of looked like the best of honestly any of the misread series Christmas books. And then Self-Care for Winter by Susie Reading looks really great. And I think that's more of you could use that one as a daily journaling type thing. And then this one, which I know it's on my TBR for next year, but I've seen multiple people recommend it this year, and it looks so good. I might have to switch out some of my books to read this year. But Letters from Father Christmas by Tolkien. I think it's J.R. Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
From what I understand of them explaining it, is Tolkien's kids would write letters to Santa. And then Tolkien would write back to them. And it was these long, elaborate letters and descriptions of what they were up to, and it was so interesting. And some of the versions I've seen is they have a copy of the actual handwritten, and then they have a facsimile of the typed out part. It looks so good, and it's so good for us because we like to read kiddish books, but also if you have children or kids in your life in any capacity, or if you just like to read Christmas stories.
Isn't the secular part of Christmas, though, all about kids and childhood?
Yes.
And it's an opportunity for me as an older person to relive the Christmases of my childhood first, and then to relive the Christmases of my children.
Yes.
now we're experiencing the Christmases of my grandchildren, so
Yes.
that's a whole new set of memories coming up.
Yes, but both of the booktubers that are extreme book people, both recommended this in the last week. And so, you know, when they both recommend something, I'm like, okay, I probably should read it. And then it's a Tolkien, like he wrote it, and then in the book edition, one of his children wrote all the illustrations, like, you know, drew all the illustrations. So this is probably, out of any of the books, honestly, I suggest, or might read, that one might be the one, because it just seems so juicy.
Let's just take a moment to appreciate having J.R. Tolkien for your father.
Right. And then
Wow.
you write them back. It spans years. It wasn't just 1 year that they did this.
Yeah.
It was years.
I think that's
So-
amazing. I'm probably going to put that one to the top of my list.
Yes.
I'm probably going to download it today and listen to it on the plane.
Yes. And like they both of these YouTubers said you could do it take one of the letters at a time.
You can read those to Grandpa.
You could piecemeal them. Yeah, you could piecemeal it. You could read it all together. You could, whatever. And it's so, I'm really hoping it's as good as it will be. And I might have to get the copy, like a physical copy of it, the editions that they said.
That's what I'm going to look on. I'm going to look on eBay as soon as we get off of here.
Yeah, so it's just, when it's like, I'm sure this goes with anything, sports, music, whatever, right? If the top, or the top tier of people that you follow in this subject, and they all recommend something, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go get that thing, because if they love it, I'm gonna love it.
Right.
And then you realize, the maker that did that thing is also at the top of his game. It's just like, it's too many good things at once, and you're like, I gotta go see it. So those are our winter holiday season books that we recommend, that we're looking forward to. There are so many more. We just kept it to 3 to 5 books per category. There's so many more. Please like this video if you like our book. We're gonna keep doing it anyway because
we enjoy ourselves.
We enjoy ourselves too much tonight. We also actually have, I don't think this is gonna be a vlogmas video, but at the end of the year, probably, I don't know if it'll be January 1st or not. It just depends on when we have the time to record. We like to do a whole bigger video of all the books we read throughout the year. And this year we're a little bit more organized than we were last year. So
this year I didn't read near as many books, so that's going to help too.
Yeah, and I've actually read more books than I thought I would. So we have all kinds of full categories in our end of the year reading vlog coming at the end of the month, beginning of the new year. And we're just so excited. We're excited about the holiday season. It always looks different every year, even though the little traditions you keep alive. But down below, make sure you leave your suggestions. We want to know. We want to hear what you like to read every year or things you're looking forward to reading. And make sure you're coming back for each other video this Vlogmas. Thank you guys so much.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Oh.
Merry Christmas.